Positive emotions don't only contribute to our success, they don't just contribute to our feeling good, they also contribute to our well-being. Optimistic people, and again, not Pollyannish detached optimism, but grounded optimists, on average live significantly longer. Bless you. Their immune system is stronger. So it also helps in terms of physical health. But now the question is the moral question. What about other people? How can I talk about or act in my life pursuing my happiness? Isn't that selfish? And the answer is yes, it is selfish. When I talk to myself, when I say to myself, I want to be happier, I say to myself that I want to be happier. That's a selfish thing. So is that bad? Is that immoral? Well, in our culture, selfishness and immorality have essentially become synonymous. And that's a problem. And here is why. Because this is the number one. Equating the two, selfishness and immorality, is the number one cause, subconsciously mostly, but not only, number one cause of unhappiness. Because people feel guilty about pursuing their own happiness. People feel guilty at times feeling good about themselves. How can I? How dare I feel good about myself? How can I pursue my own happiness when there is so much suffering in the world, and there is a lot of suffering in the world? So how do we respond to that? First of all, happiness is a positive-sum game. It's not a zero-sum game. Neither is it a negative-sum game. It's not that my happiness takes away from other people's happiness, which would be a negative-sum game. If I have more, you necessarily have less. It is not even a zero. Or rather, if I have less, you have less. That's a negative-sum game. Or a zero-sum game. If I have more, you have less. It's a fixed pie. It's not that. It's a positive-sum game. Why? Because happiness is contagious. If I'm happier, I'm more likely to contribute to other people's happiness and well-being. Being happy, in other words, is also a moral state in the sense of actually contributing to other people's well-being. The Buddha talked about it thousands of years ago. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. It's like passing on light. And if you're happy and work on your own happiness, you're contributing indirectly to other people's happiness. Just like the baby who laughed last time made you laugh. It's contagious. Generally, people who work on their happiness, again, not people who experience a constant high, they would have real difficulty having relationships since they're dead. But generally people, those of us who are alive, who work on our happiness, who experience the vicissitudes of life, the ups and downs, but overall work on our happiness and become happier and happier, have better relationships, more generous, more accepting of other people, more tolerant of other people, as well as of themselves. There's a lot of research to show that helping ourselves, in other words, working on our happiness, contributing to our well-being, leads us to also be more generous and benevolent toward others. This is research by one of the leading researchers, one of the first researchers in the area of positive emotions, Alice Eisen. And she showed time and again how feeling good is good for us and good for others. And it works the other way as well. This is the wonderful thing about happiness. It works the other way as well, because helping others also helps ourselves. Remember your task for this week. Those of you who have already read it. It's to commit, above and beyond what you usually commit, 5 extra acts of kindness during one day. 5 extra acts of kindness. This is research done by Sonia Lyubomirsky. I mentioned her book on the first class, The How of Happiness. She's done fantastic work showing how people who help, whether it's helping 5 extra acts during the week. It can be more. It doesn't have to be restricted to 5. Or people who help 5 extra acts during one day. It actually contributes to their well-being. So helping others is also helping ourselves. One of the things that I say, and only half in jest, is that I know of no more selfish act than a benevolent act. And again, only half in jest, because the two are interconnected. And there is a self-reinforcing loop between the two, where helping others helps ourselves, and helping ourselves in turn helps others. And rather than looking at it as selfish, and some people may feel dis-ease with it, rather though as looking at it as selfish, i.e. equal immoral, we should look at it as something that is so wonderful about our nature, a part of our nature that we should celebrate. The fact that our happiness is tied to others, the fact that we're tied to others in a web of empathy, that's a wonderful thing about human nature. A thing that we need to celebrate much more than we are doing already. Because remember, if we don't celebrate it, if we don't appreciate that part of our nature will depreciate. To appreciate has 2 meanings, as we talked about. 1 is to say thank you for something, and 2 is to grow. If we appreciate the good in our nature, in our inclinations, if we appreciate that part of our nature, it will appreciate and we will have more of it. If we look down on it and say, no, it's a terrible thing that I just derived benefit from helping other people, then that part of our nature will depreciate over time. For your readings, you're reading one of the meditations in my book where I talk about it a little bit more in length and also give it the philosophical foundation. Because in many ways this goes against Kantian thinking that has been so dominant in our 20th and 21st century thinking about morality. It feels good to feel good. It also contributes to others to feel good. I want to end this premise, this idea, by talking a little bit about a person for whom one of the chief purposes in life was to spread happiness. Mahatma Gandhi. There's a story about him. There was a woman, like many people, came to ask for advice from Gandhi, and she came from very far away, and she brought her son along. And she sat in front, she got the audience with Mahatma, and she sat in front of him, and she said to him, I came from afar because I have a problem with my son. My son eats way too much sugar. And I'd like you to tell him to stop it, because it's hurting his health, his teeth, and he will listen to you. He admires you. Gandhi looked at her and said, Madam, can you please come back in a month? She didn't know why, but she listened to him. After all, he was Gandhi. She left, went far away, came all the way back a month later, and once again got an audience with Gandhi. She sat in front of him, and she said, I was here a month ago. And she said, yes, I remember. And she said, could you please tell my son to stop eating so much sugar? So Gandhi looks at the child intensely and says, son, stop eating too much sugar. And that's it. The woman is obviously perplexed and musters up her courage and says, Mahatma, thank you very much. I'm sure he will stop eating too much sugar, but why couldn't you tell him this a month ago when I came all the way here? And he said, well, madam, because a month ago I was eating too much sugar. Yeah, I know it's a very sophisticated joke. It takes a while, but I'm glad you got it. One of the things that Gandhi said that he talked about, and this is from his wonderful autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. This is how you bring about change. I want to do a quick exercise with you. This is a tough exercise, especially for guys, but please bear with me. So, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. What I'd like you to do now is the following. Take your thumb and your middle finger and create as much as possible a 90-degree angle. May hurt a little bit, but try as much as possible to create a 90-degree angle. Okay, watch me just like this, okay? 90-degree angle. Now, take these two fingers, the middle finger and the thumb, and as much as possible from that 90-degree angle, create a circle. Again, this is more difficult for men than for women, less flexible. Create a circle so that it looks like, you know, like a rabbit, if you would have on the show. Middle finger, exactly, middle finger and your thumb. All right, just watch me like this, as much as possible. It's not perfectly round, but as much as possible. Now, take that circle that you have just created. Can you see that circle? Take that circle and put it on your cheek. Your other cheek. Cheek. All right, this could also take a while, but most people, from what I see, put it on their chin. Now, I said it very clearly, cheek, but you see, here is the thing. People mostly do what you do rather than what you say. Oh. So, remember that, because I don't think there is anyone in this room who would tell me now, my goal in life, my objective is to make people miserable. I really want to do that. You know, I want everyone to be miserable in the world. There's not one person here who would actually say that, I hope. So most of us here, whatever we do in our lives now and in the future, are idealists. We want to do good in the world. We want to spread happiness. But remember, people do what you do, not what you say. So you may want to spread happiness through your words, but ultimately the best way, the optimal way of spreading happiness is to work on your own happiness, because then you're leading by example. That applies to leadership. The most important thing about leadership is not what you say, it's what you do. The most important thing about parenting is not how much you tell your child honesty is important, but rather how honest you are. If you want to spread happiness, be the change you want to see in the world, by example. So these are the 5 basic premises that we talked about. They form the foundation of the course. And what we're going to do over the next couple of months is expand on these. Most importantly, see how we can take the research, the rigor, and apply it to our lives. So let me move on now to the next